All right, young Freeway, how's it going?
All is well.
Man, that's what's up, man. Nice place. We're in LA. Feeling good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think a lot of people probably don't know you're Freeway Ricky Ross's son, and you know, you got a pretty interesting story. I know he definitely has a really interesting story of everything he's been through, and you know, let's get to know you a lit'll bit better, man. Where'd you grow up at?
So I grew up South Central, Antelope Valley, San Fernando Valley, Rialto a little, but mostly, you know, I'm all LA, you know.
All over LA?
Yeah.
Okay, what was it like for you growing up? Were you just an average kid, or did you get in trouble?
No, I got in trouble. I felt like I was an average kid. You know, kids get in trouble, but I wasn't, you know, I wasn't that bad growing up. You know, I think I was an average LA kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't get involved in the streets too much or anything?
Nah, I didn't gangbang or anything like that. You know, I've avoided the streets, so to say. I do know a lot of gang members, you know, and you know, they are good people, and they're, you know, there's a reason for it, you know, and there's a reason not for it, you know. But yeah. So I kind of avoided it to where like I had to actually, you know, be in the streets. So
you knew a lot of people though.
Yeah.
So it was around you. You grew up with it around you.
Pretty much. You know, all my uncles and cousins are, you know, they're from different places of the city and, you know, California in general. You know, my dad is actually originally from Texas. Grandfather is from Texas as well. He's established a family out there, land and everything, and grandma brought my dad and uncle out here where we have family at, and you know, here we are now.
Okay, you mentioned your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad has, you know, a big story that I think a lot of people are at least familiar with it. What was that like for you growing up? You know, I'm assuming he was in jail for most of your life when you were growing up. What was that like for you?
So I didn't find out who he was until I was 10 years old. Exactly, like I knew my dad's name was Rick Ross, but not knowing, you know, his story, why he wasn't around me. So at 10, I got my grandma, my great-grandmother, she gave me a book, told me to open this book to this page. I forgot the book's name. And I opened the book, and it's a picture of my dad with a, you know, staring off to like kind of to space, and his full story about, you know, the whole drug dealing and so on and so forth, being incarcerated and everything like that. So that's how I found out who my dad was, from a book. And then
your family didn't tell you?
No, it wasn't. You know, my family all worked for my dad, so it wasn't something like, you know, promoted. You know, at the time my dad was gone.
Well, you were young too, right?
Yeah, so the business was done, you know, so it was like kind of like you know, those stories like people getting out of the game and, like, you know, they having kids and they like take their kids off, and you know, they don't expose them to the world, stuff like that. It's similar kind of thing where, you know, obviously my dad's gone, so there's no need to be exposed and, you know, expose it. So I understand why, you know, my mom's side of the family didn't really push the issue. Some of my dad's family reached out to me, but also they didn't, you know, say, you know, we this or we did this, or, you know. So it was probably really healthy for me as a child not to know about it too much in depth, you know?
You'd have been influenced by it.
Possibly.
Yeah. So at what point did you guys start communicating?
Literally in my late teens, we were talking. Like, I remember high school, maybe like 14, we were talking, letters, phone calls. Remember when the feds approved email, so he was emailing me. And 2007 is actually when he sent me an email and he asked me to be Young Freeway. He was like, I want you to be my Young Freeway. And I was like, cool. Like, I don't know what it entails, but I accept it, and I ran with it. So.
And what would you thinking at this point? Your dad's this huge drug dealer that was at one point making millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's in jail, and you're growing up and you're getting to know him a little bit now. I mean, it's difficult to get to know him because he's in jail. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was rough, just being a kid and trying to figure out who I was by myself, needing guidance and needing somebody to show me a path. And I had my mom. She was there for me, fully. But it was still needing that father, there. My mom got married, and I had a man around the house. But it was studying, all that it was that my dad was. I remember looking him up, Googling him, and he was listed in the world's top 10 drug lords of the world, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm not telling people that, and I'm like, fuck, they're gonna, some people are gonna, I could look at it like, damn, I don't know why, but I know now why I was like that, because, I don't know who I would be approaching saying this. As I got older and I spent more time with my dad and he's reaching out, we've had incidents where, the past came up in front of us and we were like, somebody's, a child that their mother was, doing crack, she came to my dad and told him, like, yeah, my mother was doing it, and, I had it in my system when I was born, and, and it was like, hearing that impact me too, because it's like, damn, like, he did it for me. He did that to you for me, So it's, all that stuff was sitting on me as a kid, like, damn, he did all this for the family and, take care of us, and not really understanding, the full story, the full gist of it,
At one point, somebody approached you that knew your dad, and it affected her life. He actually sold to her, and how did that make you feel? You kind of,
it made me. I was an adult at the time, older, and kind of been through different circumstances or whatnot, and it affected me being like, like, I know she was a child, and she, it kind of put her through some stuff. But I was happy to see, she wasn't, in a bad place, and, we were giving back, So, he learned, and it's just, move forward and stay positive is where I'm at with it. So, I just.
How was it when he got out?
When he got out, it's funny because he got out, and I was locked up. So, and then I ended up getting out 13 months later, and hanging out with him, and working with him, growing with him, and like, he just had this, this drive, this passion, he would tell me when we would communicate, I'm coming home next year, like, he was going to a library, conversating with lawyers, different people to win his appeal, to get an appeal, to get out, and every time he got, you know, high hopes, he would tell me like, oh, I'm coming home next year. I remember him telling me he was coming home like maybe twice, and then I think the third time he actually came home, you know. So it was like a 3-year thing, 3-year process.
So initially, your dad did he get life initially?
Yeah, he had a life term.
And they reduced that at one point. Was
Yeah.
it under Obama that they reduced it? Or?
Nah, it was, so George Bush Jr. was leaving office and Obama was entering office. So it was during the transition of presidency, like in this time when they do pardons or whatever. But he had his case overturned and everything due to legal standings and stuff.
How'd you feel when the rapper came out?
Honestly, you know, when the rapper came out, my dad was still locked up. So when he came out, you know, I didn't have any bad feelings about him, you know. For one, you know, there's, you know, the other rappers out, the Philly Freeway, you know.
Oh, Philadelphia Freeway.
Yeah.
Was he named after your dad too?
Yeah. But he
that.
like acknowledges my dad. He acknowledged him, basically, you know, gave him, you know, a shout out saying, you know, like you helped, you know, you helped inspire us, you know, inspire people, you know, in different ways. And he said that he got his name, Freeway, from my dad.
Right.
So, you know, when the rapper Rick Ross came out, when Robert Williams started rapping, it was like, okay, cool, whatever, you know. He, like, you know, me and my sisters and my brothers was like, okay, like, when Dad come home, like, then we're gonna have something going on, you know. And because, like I said, at the time the rapper came out, my dad was incarcerated. So, you know, there isn't, you know, really too much that we could have done as, you know, the kids or whatnot. But it wasn't until my dad came home and the rapper started to pretend like he was my dad and my dad wasn't nobody or didn't do what he was acting like he did what my dad did, is where I just basically, you know, brushed him off. You know, whereas first I would, you know, I enjoyed his music, you know, I would have enjoyed meeting him, you know, and, you know, just the whole, you know, just being cordial, you know. But now it's like, you know, it's brush off. Like, you come around, I gotta hound you. Like, I gotta ask you, when are you gonna, yeah, I seen him once.
Did he know who you were? Were you with your dad?
Yeah, so it was a funny story. You know, it's some names involved. The Players Ball happened last year, down here, downtown. My dad was actually out of town. The host of the Players Ball decided to give the rapper a award for the Player of the Year award in LA. You know, okay, whatever. Like, you can give him an award, don't give him to him in LA. So, you know, Afro Man, shout out to Afro Man, gotta stay high, you feel me? He flew my dad out, got my dad there, got him in, you know, set up, had a table, everything set up. The rapper was supposed to be there to receive an award. The rapper didn't come until my dad left. So my dad had to be somewhere early in the morning. So the rapper didn't come into the club until my dad left the club. But I was still in the club. So I basically, you know, seen him and I'm like, you know, hey, Robert, like, what's up? Can we get a meeting? Like, can you sit with my pops and discuss this shit? Like, you know, and one of his boys looked back at me and was like, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. So I'm like, wow. And they're sitting in this Escalade, or it was a truck. And it was limo tinted, everything. I literally walked up to the window And I'm like, yo, can we get a meeting? Like, you can't sit with my pops and discuss anything. Like, you know, you can't sit with them. And they just drove off. And I just laughed. Some dude, man, that wasn't player. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, bro? He's like, you was yelling at the man. And I said, yeah, I yelled at him and asked him, can we have a meeting? Can he set up a meeting? And then somebody else start getting on that dude, and I just went back in the club. And, you know, that was the scene. And I'm like, damn, like, he just wanted to sit with him, you know? And he don't want to do it. But my dad just wants to ask him about how he feels about having another man's name on his hands. That's it.
Oh, he does have it tatted.
Yeah. So it's not, you know, my dad doesn't want to sit with him to be like, oh, you're the man and nah. No, he wants to sit with him and ask him, why does he have such a facade on? That's all.
That must have been a trip, though, right?
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't even talk to you.
He
wouldn't even give you a conversation or nothing.
And it wasn't even, you know, we was at the players' ball, you know, a couple of my, you know, my peoples that's out there that was there, they were like, you know, they were like, man, you know, do it like this, do it like that, like, you know. And so I'm like, okay, we can do it like that. Like, you know, I'm like, I got this, you know, but like, it could go, you know, we can have it go so many ways, but for what? You know, it's like, sit down and make this shit real, like, you know. But it was a funny situation to me.
You would think he'd want to meet your dad. I mean, if you took somebody's name, it's kind of like you're putting them on a high level. Like, you must, to adapt somebody's name, you must think highly of that person.
You must idolize them. You have to.
An idol, exactly. And then to not be able to not wanna at least sit down and have a conversation,
it's kind of strange because,
weird.
You know, it's like, damn, like, why are you running from it? And, you know, but we all know why, because he wants to pretend. Like, honestly, like, I meet people and they don't know that he's just a rapper. They really think that he's the man that sold cocaine and made millions of dollars off of cocaine. They really think that man did that stuff.
People really think that he's your dad.
People really think that man was a drug trafficker selling cocaine. Like, wow. They don't know. They don't know that there's a real Rick Ross. They don't know that, you know, everything he rapped about was the whole lifestyle of someone else, you know? And it's just, you know, it's not sad because we know that's what it is. You know, they expose what they want to expose. You know, and they want to expose some guy saying he's so dope and, you know, and did all this stuff and never went to school. And in actuality, he went to school and he had this and that, you know, nothing, no circumstances similar to the actual lifestyle, but raps about it and tries to push it on other people, you know? And it's just sad.
I didn't know he went to school.
Yeah.
I knew he was a
correctional officer. He did all kind of stuff.
But yeah.
You know, and he tried to say, oh, I was a correctional officer and, you know, I was bringing stuff in through there and like all this stuff. And it's like, I met people that's met him in there. They were like locked up in there and they were like, he was an enforcer. Like, you know, he was the one running up in cells, trying to find cell phones and, you know, and it's like, this shit come to light, you know? So it's like, you can't sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm this and that, and it's not so, you know? And then everybody go with it forever, you know? You're not gonna go with that shit forever. Somebody gonna be like, man, tell one person and they gonna open their eyes and then they're gonna tell another person and 3 people got their eyes open and they gonna be able to tell 9 people and then, you know, the numbers is gonna advance and everybody gonna be like, you know, they start falling off, you know, little by little like they are doing in the industry, you know. They come out talking this hype shit and then it falls off, you know. Some people make it longer, like the rapper Rick Ross, he made it long because he had Sony, Def Jam, Warner Brothers, Universal, all backing him. They all seen the money pot in Rick Ross. So they all got behind it. They all jumped in it. They were all a part of the lawsuit, and they all figured a way out.
Oh, the lawsuit? Yeah, I think I heard about that. Like, your dad wasn't able to get anything, right?
Nah, the judge said that he should have filed 5 days after he got out of prison. So
that's so crazy. That's so ridiculous. Like, he in prison, and
he just spent the whole time in prison. He figured out how to get out. He didn't have time to worry about no lawsuits to get this money, you know? So he didn't, you know, it was like, my dad really didn't want to do the lawsuit, to make that clear. My dad didn't, you know, every day when I would get up with him and we would go meet at the lawyer's office, go to the courthouse, my dad did not want to do that. The lawyers pressed my dad, just not press him, but, you know, they basically encouraged him to do this, you know. They did it all pro per. They did it, not pro per, excuse me. They did it where on consignment, basically. They win,
okay.
They get this much percentage. So my dad had, the only incentive was some money, you know, and obviously, you know, to get the facts out. But he didn't really. He didn't go find those lawyers and call them and say, this is what I want to do. They were like, this is what we're gonna do for you, you know. So make that clear to everybody, you know.